Hey, Carrie, thanks for sitting down with me today. For the benefit of the people viewing this, can you give us like an oral history of, what got you excited in real estate? How long you've been doing it? I know you started last week, I think.
Well, a couple weeks ago, actually, but
Okay.
I appreciate the opportunity to visit with you, Dave. It's always good to see you. I got into real estate. I was actually licensed in 1983.
Okay.
My dad was a real estate broker, and my intention was only to get my license just to show him that I could. And while I was doing it, I started to realize that as a realtor, you set your own hours. Typically, you get paid for your success. You're able to help people. It's highly respected. You don't have to be a pushy salesman. I can just be involved in the community, is what I was told. Be involved in the community. People will get to know you, like you, and trust you. And then if they know what you're doing, they may want to do business with you. And so that's actually how I got into it. And that's one of the reasons I still love it.
Right, right, right. So in the first week of business, you got really involved with the board of realtors. Obviously, you've been doing it longer than 2 weeks, but and you've held a couple of positions at the local board and also at the state level. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, my dad was involved in leadership when he was there. He was president in, I think, 1986, and region chair for the California Association of Realtors, directors, and different things like that. I got involved. I'm a two-time past president of the Lodi Association of
I
Realtors.
can't get rid of you.
I was president in 2011 and 2023. Currently, I am a California Association of Realtors director, and I enjoy having inside information, which I think most people do. And I enjoy being able to share that information with our membership, which is really cool.
Yeah, yeah. And then the second week of you being in the business, you joined
Mm-hmm.
some service clubs too, right? To give back to the community. And what are you involved with
Yeah,
on
well,
that
I,
side
I
of things?
was I was encouraged originally by my dad to get involved in the association, get involved in the Chamber of Commerce, and then something else. And for a long time, I was involved primarily in Lodi Parks and Rec Department and
Oh,
boys
okay.
and girls sports, coaching, playing, being active. I still coach. Don't play as much as I used to, but now I'm involved in Kiwanis, member of Kiwanis. We sponsor the pancake breakfast on 4th of July. We sponsor the Parade of Lights, and we do all kinds of stuff behind the scenes. And I really enjoy doing that and making a difference.
Yeah, it's a great way to give back to the community, meet some new friends along the way, right? Some other civic minded people, I'm sure, inside of your organization and such.
Yep, it is, and it's a lot of fun.
Oh, good,
Yeah.
good, good. Hey, and here we are in I guess late winter, yeah, late winter of
Mm-hmm.
2026, and we're headed into what people say the busiest buying season, the spring buying season. So, what do you think about that? What would be some good tips either on the buy side or on the listing side that some people should be aware of as we move into our busiest season?
That's a good question and gives me all kinds of places that I could go with that. I think the biggest thing for buyers and sellers in any season really is to be prepared. Buyers need to realize that it's not just going around touring homes. It's a matter of being prepared financially, being prepared mentally. If it's a husband and wife, they need to have good communication between themselves so that they know what they're looking for and what their reasoning is behind buying. And sellers kind of need to have an idea of what their goals are in selling. Why am I selling? Where am I going to go? What am I going to do with whatever money that I receive from the sale and different things like that as well.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's great. That's great. You know, if somebody was on the fence right now, and maybe we could take them one at a time, what advice would you give them? So let's just talk about on the buy side of things. If somebody was on the fence on, hey, should I buy right now? When's the best time to buy? Is there such thing as timing the market on things like that?
Well, I think timing the market is kind of like timing buying stocks and stuff like that. And if you could buy Apple, when it first started or something like that, we'd all be trillionaires or whatever. But it's tough to time the market. And so really you just want to be prepared and have an understanding of what the market is doing, but you want to be ready financially. And I've always been telling people, especially the last few years, don't wait for interest rates to come down. Don't wait for prices to come down. Look for affordability. Right now there's not as much competition of buyers as there has been in certain markets. So if you see something that you like, that fits your lifestyle, fits your family needs, it's in the location that you want, buy now if you can afford it. So I think affordability, um, selection is down maybe, but that's picking up. And again, this time of the year, um, inventory tends to pick up as well. People put their homes on the market typically early spring when the weather gets a little bit better. But I tell people to keep watching. Even if you're not looking immediately, keep watching, because if you see that dream home in the dream location, you want to be ready.
Yeah, yeah, and I guess it really depends on if they're a first time buyer or they already own a house, because what could some of the hiccups be if I already own my house and I want to buy the next one?
Yeah. Well, again, it depends on the market, but if you already own a home and you're looking to buy a bigger home, or maybe you're downsizing, whatever your situation is, it's going to be different for everybody. And there's different obstacles with each one and in different markets. If you're in a market where homes are sitting for a while longer, like right now, you might have a seller that's willing to wait for you to sell your home before purchasing theirs. If yours is priced properly, it's with a good agent, it's in a desirable area. Those are factors that could be taken into consideration. A lot of times, though, sellers will want you to be non-contingent, which means you've already sold your home, or you're ready to buy without selling your home. A lot of people who are moving up, especially, they're wanting to keep that home as a rental, maybe as an
Yeah,
investment,
yeah,
because there's opportunities to buy that second home a lot of times with a lower down payment, depending on what your circumstances are. So it really helps to have a professional lender, and it really helps to have a good realtor that understands all the options to make sure that you're doing what's proper for your family planning.
yeah, yeah. No, there definitely are a lot of options, and that rental one is a great tip on creating generational wealth by owning multiple properties.
Hmm.
As the tide rises, they both go up in value,
Yes, they do.
right? And then as those values go up, rents typically follow as well. So if they have that as an investment, then they might be able to collect more rent, and 30-year fixed rate payment stays the same. So yeah, that's a great strategy in regards to that. And then you also recently got involved with some other things with investing too. We want to care to elaborate on that and help
Yeah.
people create wealth, and making sure downside, the downside of bad things that may happen in life.
Hmm. Yeah, realtors, every realtor that I've ever met has always tried to find something on the side and looking for other opportunities. And typically we end up waiting for buyers to get rid of debt, develop credit, save a down payment. And saving a down payment is typically the most difficult thing for most buyers before they can purchase. But then once they buy, also, um, how to protect that. What if something happens to one of the spouses? Um, how to plan for retirement, how to prepare a legacy to give to your children, and so forth. If we wait for people to develop a down payment and get ready to purchase a house, then we got to hope that they call us out of the half a dozen or more realtors that they already know, which the odds aren't great. I heard a couple of years ago that in California, less than 18% of families qualify to buy a median priced home. And so it made me think, there's only so many people that I'd have an opportunity to help in that situation.
Yeah.
So I realized that one thing that I could do, and I wanted to do it for myself as well, was learn more about financial services and financial stability for my family. And so I got licensed as a licensed insurance agent as well,
Oh, okay.
um, primarily to be able to create more wealth for my family, protect my family assets in case something were to happen to me or to my wife. But then I also thought, you know, I didn't think actually that I'd be able to find a company that had the same values and so forth that I do. where I take the client's needs above any financial need that I might want. I did find a company that provides that opportunity for me, so I have started working for a company on a part-time basis to be able to offer financial services to people. So it's a free education that we're offering because we're lacking that in the United States. It seems like we're almost meant to get into debt, and that's how we're to develop our credit is by getting into debt. Yeah. So, I wasn't taught anything in high school or college about finances. You probably weren't either. I know you're very knowledgeable now, but most people aren't. Actually 60% of families live paycheck to paycheck. Nearly 70% of families don't have $1,000 emergency fund in case something were to happen. Their fridge goes out or whatever, they'd have to borrow to replace whatever it is they need. Yeah. So I think that what I've been able to do recently is gives me the opportunity to help more people. And that's what I'm trying to do is not just make money, but make a difference.
Right. Serving your client better.
That's exactly right.
Right. Because because you and I discussed it a little bit, and beyond doing in investing and insurance for life and things like that, or accidental dismemberment, things, death, and the bad side, it's gonna happen one day or another.
Mm-hmm.
You also have referrals to other people, part of that whole financial picture, like trusts and estates and wills and things like that.
Yeah, we're in a position right now to be able to offer vetted services for everything from debt reduction to advising on LLCs or S corps or different things like that. If we have people who want to get into business or they're in business but they've never formed one, which I know a lot of realtors are in that situation. They've been in real estate for potentially decades, still acting as an individual, and there might be opportunities for them to start an S corp or an LLC or something that would give them better protection, because we want to make more money, but we also want to pay as little in taxes as possible. We all love our country. We all want to pay our fair share, but we don't want to pay more than we have to.
Sure. And it also protects your assets too.
That's exactly right.
Right. We don't want something to happen in the business to take away your personal residence either.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So that really helps out with that part of it as well. Over the next year, we talk about that affordability piece, and I know that you and I were on a conference call, and the chief economist from the National Association of Realtors were on there, and he was talking about how over the last year rates have gone down a little bit. Talked a little bit more about affordability, so at least that's coming back in line. Are you kind of noticing the same in talking to clients that they're qualifying for a little bit more, or maybe they we're at a higher interest rate, they wouldn't be able to qualify for exactly what they need?
Yeah, and I actually have a little different perspective on interest rates, because when I got started, a long time ago, interest rates were 17.5%.
Yeah.
So I remember when they got to 10, I was like, yes, 10%.
Yeah.
So I think that, yes, focusing on affordability is the most important thing. And affordability to make your house payment and, pay your utilities and pay for your food and still be able to travel now and then and maybe put your kid in a soccer camp or, different things like that. Those are all things that kind of need to be considered.
What should a buyer understand about the process before they just jump in their car and start looking at open houses?
Well, I think that's very important, and that's a great question, Dave, because you jump in a car, start looking at open houses, and you see one, and you and your wife or whatever are thinking, boy, this is fantastic. We'd love to have this house, and then you go try and qualify for that house, and you're not close or whatever. So then everything becomes emotional, and you're upset because you can't afford what you wanted. Maybe you just give up on the idea, and instead, I think the thing to do is to be prepared before you go out and start looking. Do some research. What are the areas that you're looking at? What are the median values in the area that you're looking at? What are your needs? And I think that's something that couples and people need to talk about. Also, do I want a living room? Do I want a family room, living room, or a great room? What is my
How are we going to
circumstance?
use the space?
Yeah, and will it fit my family? And talk to a good professional lender that's not just going to give you maybe a pre-approval, but if you have time, get fully underwritten. Be sure that you understand as a buyer, what all the ramifications are. You're going to have taxes, you're going to have insurance and stuff like that on top of just a mortgage payment. So if you have a better understanding of that, and then you start going out and looking at homes that are in your price range, then you're better qualified and better prepared to make a good, smart decision for your family. And you don't end up buying on emotion and potentially losing your home or whatever can happen.
Yeah, that makes sense. And so when they finally find the one, they're ready to make the offer. Can you elaborate on the difference of, kind of just throwing a dart at picking your lender versus somebody who's local and knows the marketplace? Like, how does that play into negotiations?
Well, I think that having a local lender that's involved and active, especially in local associations and knows people, has the ability to communicate the strength of a buyer. Like if you're active in a local association, and Dave, I know you're involved in several associations, which is a big help. So if I write an offer on John Doe's listing and John Doe is somebody that you happen to know, or at least have some reference to, then you have a good opportunity maybe to reach out to that person and let them know the strength of your buyer, our buyer, and the conditions that are, included in this offer.
I know traditionally you worked more with sellers, and that's starting that needle's starting to kind of get more balanced right now.
Mm-hmm.
When you're on the listing side of things and you're evaluating offers, how much does that come into play? Like, if two offers come in and they're pretty close, like, how does that conversation for the buyers that are watching, how does that conversation go down when you're sitting at the seller's kitchen table? Do we go with offer one or do we go with offer two?
Yeah, that's a great question, Dave. And, dealing with sellers, dealing with buyers even, I try to put myself in my buyer or seller's shoes. So what would I do? What's important to me is what's important to them, what their goals are. And so I know with sellers, typically they want to get the most that they can. They want to do it in the shortest amount of time. They want to do it with the least amount of hassle. But the bottom line is they want to get the thing done. You don't want you don't want to end up back on the market for one reason or another. And so being able to look a seller in the face and saying, this is a good offer. This is a good offer. This one, whatever. I don't know this lender. This lender I haven't heard of. This one I think is from, New York or something. And this one, yeah, he's a local guy right here, in Lodi. And yeah, I've worked with him before and I see him every Tuesday or whatever it is.
Yeah.
That carries a lot of weight, because if I can say, I see that person, there's some personal accountability there, that makes a big difference. I can count on what he tells me. This other person, I don't know.
Right. You don't have a track record.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. So a localized lender, someone you can get a hold of, pretty available, that kind of thing. And when we're looking at things that make a transaction go wrong from either buy side or sell side, what are some things that could go wrong throughout the transaction, and how can either a buyer or a seller prepare for that?
Yeah. Well, I know that, people might think in general that the majority of the time when a property comes back on the market or a deal goes bad, it's due to the condition of the property. And a lot of times the condition of the property, those things can be taken care of. The vast majority, in my experience, of properties where deals go bad is because of lack of communication.
Okay.
So if you have a lender, you have a title company, you have a realtor who communicates regularly with your buyer or seller and informs them on progress that's been made or hiccups that have come up or whatever, I think that makes a big difference, because if you don't know what's going on, especially to a buyer or seller, their mind kind of always goes to the worst case scenario. And so,
Goes to the negative.
yeah, so keeping in contact, reporting progress or issues that you're dealing with, I think that's important.
What does that look like when you say reporting back? Like, how long is the normal time span of a transaction? Let's go from the buy side because from the seller it's going to be longer time
Mhm.
frame. But what is the normal time frame of? Oh my God, I found the one we want to make an offer to. Here's your keys, congratulations.
Yeah.
And so what advice would you give a buyer of how often they should be talking to their lender or at least hearing from them?
Yeah. Well, most transactions for a buyer typically last 30 to 45 days. Um, in the past, it was maybe longer, but typically 30 to 45 days. Can be done quicker, circumstances vary. But I think that a good lender is going to be active on that file. And so they're going to touch base with a buyer every time something happens on that file, certainly within 4 or 5 days. I would think, twice a week, most likely.
Yeah.
As you proceed, because you're going to be getting verifications of income, verifications of employment, and a lot of that stuff you might even do sooner to have them fully underwritten before they start looking, which is ideal. Doesn't always happen. But I think letting them know appraisal's been ordered, different things as you go along, it gives you opportunity.
Different milestones.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
and so you ordered the appraisal, but then you can get back to them 3 or 4 days later and let them know, okay, the appraisal's been done, and then again, you have opportunity, and the realtor's involved in this too. You have opportunity to reach out to them and let them know the appraisal came in at value, or these were the conditions or whatever. Just keeping them informed on what's going on. And if they're contacted every couple of days by the realtor or the lender, um, and at least making sure we allow them to contact us if they have questions or concerns about anything. Good realtors and good lenders will also ask them, what's your best form of communication? Some people, they just want a phone call. Some people, they want a text, or they want an email. And so we want to be aware of their preferences as well, and that makes a difference.
Yeah, no, makes sense. And then like time frame for, I know every house is different and there might be a different strategy, but we kind of just went over the buyer time frame. What is a seller's time frame in today's market?
Well, and, and that's a good question, Dave. But sellers' time frames are all different. It depends on what a seller wants. I've got a seller right now that he's already purchased another home. He's ready to close and be done.
Okay.
I've got other sellers who at times, they, are maybe having a home built, and it's not going to be done until August, let's say,
Okay.
and they, so they might want to try and rent back for a little bit, or they're not.
When someone has that long of a time frame, would their house already be listed for sale, or would they just kind of
Well,
be
it
holding
it
off?
it could. Um, what I've found is if I'm a seller and I have a property that's in a prime location, if somebody wants to buy my house, it's not like they have a bunch of different ones that are all the same. I've got a unique property in a good location and it's in great condition. And if you want to buy my house, I'm building another home. It's going to be August before I can move out, so I don't want to close till August. If I want to buy your house, I'm going to wait till August.
Yeah.
And there are locations like that, especially in the Lodi area, where people are willing to. I mean, they'll watch certain neighborhoods for years, looking for the right property
Okay.
before they jump. And so, yeah, that's a possibility.
Okay. And what would someone need to do to prep their home to get it ready for sale?
Well, I know a lot of people have ideas that, I need to redo the kitchen, or I need to, paint the whole house, or, whatever. That's not always the case. And so as a realtor, I've listened to buyers go through thousands of homes over the years. And so I've kind of learned what buyers are looking for. And what I've found, Dave, is that primarily they want it to be clean and functional. So if nothing else, sellers should make their homes clean and functional. If if a seller happens to be a painter and he wants to do some painting, fine.
Mm-hmm.
If a, and would help with color selection and whatever. If a seller owns a carpet company and he wants to replace some carpet, great. But don't just go out and do it just because you can. And so I would say talk to a good realtor. Make sure that what you're doing is actually beneficial for the sale and to put more money in your pocket.
Yeah, because there's a misconception that if I spend X amount of dollars on my home, which might be just classified as maintenance,
Mm-hmm.
my home should be worth more.
Yeah.
I just spent X amount of dollars, so therefore I want X dollars more out. And is that typically the case?
Yeah, it's not the case where you put this into it and you're definitely going to get that out of it. That's one of the things I did years ago when I first got into real estate. I started working a lot with new construction.
Okay.
So I had open houses all the time, and I heard people go through and tell me what they like and what they didn't like. So what I did actually is I started working with different contractors and told them where they can put their money to get the most out of it. And so I've become really good at working with sellers, helping them determine where to put money or where not to. Just as an example, back in the day, I might have advised a builder to put $2,000 extra into that fireplace, that fancy fireplace, because they could get 10 more out of it.
Wow.
Well, if a seller can do that in certain situations, if they have those extra funds to do certain things, it might be worthwhile. But again, you want to be careful because you might have a buyer that doesn't want something, or wants to do something else. And, like flooring or whatever, a lot of times you put in, new flooring, especially on an older, settled, a senior home, a home here in Lodi that might be in the 50s and 60s.
Okay.
That era, you might end up putting in new carpet and they want to tear it out and redo the wood floor.
Yeah.
So I think that getting some consultation before putting money into something just because you can is a good idea.
So if someone's thinking about selling, they can just, schedule an appointment with you and assuming it was mutually benefiting and saying, hey, can you walk through my house, Carrie, and say what I should leave alone versus what maybe might need some sprucing up?
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for asking that because, I've offered to do that for forever. Just the opportunity to meet people. That's one of the best things about this business is the opportunity to meet new people and just to be able to help them regardless of what they end up doing, whether they keep their home forever or whatever. I'm willing to do that, meet with people, take a look at their home, give them ideas on what they can do for improvements, what they shouldn't bother doing if they're thinking of selling, where to put their money or when not to.
Yeah. I bet some people go, wow, if I did all that, I'll just stay here.
Well, and that's happened.
Sure.
So
if fall in love with their house again.
Yeah, if that's what they decide to do, that's fantastic. Because the bottom line is you want people to be happy, and you want them to tell people, hey, that Kerry, boy, he helped us make some good decisions on our property, and we decided to stay here, and he was as happy as we were.
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes not doing the sale is the right thing to do.
Absolutely, and I know I just did that for a couple here in town where they ended up being able to refinance and stay where they were. They got a reverse mortgage, and they're just so happy and ecstatic. They've offered me all kinds of homemade jellies and different things like that. And so, being able to do that, it's the same thing. I've always told people I want to take care of people like I'd want my mom to be treated.
Yeah.
And that's true. It's not just
something.
It's not a saying. So these people were so happy. I was so happy for them. And eventually they'll probably need to sell their house because they were a little older couple.
Yeah.
So that's fantastic.
Yeah. No, that's great to hear.
Yeah.
That's great to hear. Hey, well, thanks for spending some time with me today. I really appreciate it. It's good getting to know and letting the audience know, all the different facets of real estate. It's not just as simple as, oh, I like that one, I want to buy it. There's a process to it.
Yeah, so. Thanks, Dave. You're a great lender and you're very knowledgeable, and I appreciate you giving me this opportunity to visit with you.
Awesome. Let's do it again soon.
Yes, that'd be fun.
All right. Well, if you need to get a hold of Carrie, tell us everybody your cell phone number so they can get a hold of you.
Best place to reach me is 209-327-5347. And you can call or text, and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Thank you.
Awesome. All right. Thanks again, Carrie.
Okay.
And we'll do it again soon.
Okay, good.
See, that was easy, right?
Yeah, that wasn't bad.